Today, we'll discuss the shock factor of Terrifier 2, the highly successful horror sequel. Despite its minuscule budget of only $250,000, it's earned over $5 million at the box office, and director Damien Leone is hinting about a third installment. But before we look forward to what Leone and Art the Clown may have in store, let's break down the most disturbing scenes in the film. Can you guess the number one on this list? Stay tuned to find out. First up, the introduction of the little pale girl. Starting comparatively light, the introduction of the little pale girl, Amelie McLean, isn't disturbing for how gory or cruel it is, like most of the other scenes we'll be discussing here. Instead, it's the pure shock of seeing a brand new, unforgettably horrifying clown face. Our protagonist, Art, a killer clown, has just killed the coroner who was set to inspect his body. Disposing of the evidence, Art moves to the middle of nowhere and enters a laundromat. He strips down, places his clothes in the washer, and waits nude for them to be cleaned. His presence in this public place is already enough to unnerve most viewers, but then Art looks around a corner and sees something that makes the scene shift into pure terror. A young girl wearing clown makeup similar to Art's is standing in the middle of the room. She stares at him with a broad smile, slowly moving closer as if she knows who he is. The tension builds as we aren't sure if this little girl is Art's friend or a threat to him. There's a long moment when it seems like she may be an even scarier and more dangerous clown than him, but then the two start playing patty cake. Next up, pouring bleach and salt into open wounds. After being maimed by Art, Allie manages to drag herself toward her phone, but unfortunately for her, Art returns with a gallon of bleach and a container of salt, which he gleefully proceeds to pour over her body. Not content with that, he then rubs a handful of salt into the exposed skin on her back and even rips off half her face. This scene is so disturbingly sadistic that it easily stands out from the rest of the movie's almost unbearable violence. It's truly a sight to behold. Now for Birth of a Head. We see the mid-credits scene of Terrifier 2 unfold in Miles County Psychiatric Hospital, where Victoria Hayes is staying after she attacked someone. We see two orderlies chatting while Victoria writes words on the wall in her blood. As they finish her conversation, we realize that Vicky has drawn a heart with Vicky plus Art at the center amid misogynist obscenities. Then she drops to the floor and screams as blood shoots out from under her dress, revealing that a decapitated yet alive head of Art has been birthed from her belly. The orderly standing by is horrified. So let's discuss clubbing Brooke. After killing Jeff, or letting him bleed out, Art grabs the knife and pulls Brooke from the parked car, where she is hiding from him. Nonetheless, she kicks him in the face and escapes. But now that she's been pulled through a shattered window, she's hurt, and every time she slashes herself further, she moves even more slowly. The only place she can go before she passes out is a filthy restroom where Art finds her. She tries to flee again, but she is trapped, and her injury makes it impossible for her to run. Therefore, she attempts to intimidate Art by brandishing a club she fashioned out of a nearby piece of wood and pleading with him to leave her alone. He looms over her for a moment, drawing attention to the knife, fork, and nail-studded chair leg he intends to employ as a weapon. Instead of hitting her with his homemade mace, he splashes acid in her face and grins as it burns and bubbles. Then he starts pounding her with the mace, first on the body, then on the legs, till she finally collapses to the floor. Once she is down, he strikes her repeatedly in the chest with the weapon until she bleeds to death. Having transformed her into a human piñata, Art sets down his club, extracts her heart, and bites down hard on a juicy chunk of flesh dripping with blood. Next, she's still alive. When Allie's mom returns home, the shattered glass of a porch door reveals that Art has broken in. With only silence in response to her calling for her daughter, she rushes upstairs to find a horrible sight. Art sitting on Allie's bed with her body disfigured beyond recognition. Her mother shrieks in terror at the sight, with Art cackling in amusement. To her surprise, Allie appears alive and aware of the clown's presence, which is more disturbing than anything. Next is Allie's first attack. Sienna's friend, Allie, was preparing for a party when a mysterious man in a clown costume appeared and demanded candy. Refusing to give him the time of day, she returned to her preparations, only to find out that he had made his way into her kitchen and he was helping himself to a glass of water. Before she could react, he grabbed her and pulled her head up by the hair, stabbing her with a scalpel. He then switched to surgical scissors and slashed at her limbs and sprayed her blood onto the walls before leaving the room for the moment. Next, snacking on Jonathan. In the closing part of Terrifier 2, Art turns his attention to Jonathan, who has passed out. He attempts to wake him up by clapping and snapping, but when that doesn't work, he begins to eat him. Art starts starts biting Jonathan's hand, tearing pieces of flesh away from it. This causes Jonathan to awaken in shock, and he frantically tries to escape before Art grabs his legs and devours his ankles. This extended scene plays with all phobias, from the gore of having one's ankles bit open to Jonathan's desperate plea for help as he is being eaten alive. It is a sequence that has genuinely left lasting impressions on viewers. Next, the smashing opening scene. Moments after the first Terrifier ends, Art strides to the gurgling and crawling coroner, who is desperate to call the police. Taking the phone from his hand, Art sets it back on its receiver and begins to assault him with a surgical hammer. After thumping him on the head twice, he abruptly yanks out one of the man's eyes and places it in his empty socket. He then proceeds to take the hammer and smash the face of the already dead coroner before tearing apart his head with his hands, removing the brain from within. All in all, a gruesome display of violence. And now, Candyhead. Evenwell will be talking a lot about Art's relationship with Sienna's friend Allie, Casey Hartnett. Further up on this list, the least distressing, and to be fair, it's still really awful, event that occurs to Allie and her mom happens after they're already dead. Art uses her mother's severed and hollowed out head as a bowl to serve candies to a group of youngsters. After spending an obscene amount of time tormenting Allie and killing her, blood is still trickling down his skull from where he fatally stabbed Allie and her mother. But the children and their parents are more interested in talking about how cool the candy dish is. When one kid complains that her sweets are sticky, her friend tells her that it's just pretended blood. "I like it," adds another kid. It's a disturbing scene that shows how accustomed we are to graphic depictions of violence, and how audiences may find joy in a film that goes insane to depict bloodshed. It's not so much what we see as what we think about at that time, albeit what we see is quite unpleasant too. Next, serving mom dinner. When Sienna and Jonathan's mother, Barbara, finds out that Jonathan was suspended from school for an incident involving a dead animal, their argument ends with Jonathan running away. But when he returns home, he discovers the horrific scene of his mother murdered by Art using a shotgun blast to her face. To make matters worse, Art puts mashed potatoes where her face used to be, creating an image that will stay with Jonathan and the audience forever. This is one of the most horrifying moments in the movie, enough to make anyone lose their appetite for mashed potatoes. Finally, Jeff's mutilation. The plot of Terrifier 2 shifts back and forth between Sienna searching for Jordan and Brooke and Jeff in the car after Sienna, her friend Brooke, Kaylee Hyman, and Brooke's boy toy Jeff, Charlie McElveen, arrive at a carnival where Art has taken Jonathan hostage. They keep doing drugs, making out, and teasing each other, and we keep wondering if they'll be okay. Following that, Jeff walks around to the back of the vehicle to relieve himself. We see him close his eyes while he urinates, and then a knife comes slicing into the screen from the side to stab him in the After hearing him scream, Brooke looks out the back window and sees Art stabbing Jeff in the shins several times. As she fights to start the car and escape, we see Art grab onto, well, something barely recognizable as a part of a human body, and physically tear it off after many knife wounds to Jeff's front of his jeans, sending blood spraying everywhere. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. And don't forget to leave a comment below, letting us know what you think. We love hearing from you.